Hi, my name is Wesley Schaefer. Today I'm going to show you a quick and easy way of how to remove and install a driver's side axle for a Toyota Camry. This is going to cover early 90s Camrys all the way into the 2000s. Keep in mind a lot of these tools are optional. Come on over here and we'll take a look at what we got set up. First thing we're going to do is remove the cotter pin on the drive axle nut. Just get a pliers in there, a needle nose, and then you take off the castle lock nut. I'm going to use an impact wrench with a 30mm socket to get the axle nut off. 30mm socket. And there you go, got that off. If you're going to be putting on a remanufactured axle, you're not going to need to keep this. Just give this a little tap, usually use a punch or something in the center, and that just helps release the axle from the hub. Take a 17mm socket, and we're going to remove the tie rod end nut. I already took this one off. You're going to use the impact wrench to get it off. So once that's out, you're going to need a tie rod end separator, and that's going to separate this. You just get in there and hammer this, and it wedges it out. Hang on to this nut if you're going to be reusing that tie rod end. On the bottom side here, the lower control arm right here connects up to the lower ball joint. There's one 17mm bolt and two 17mm nuts. Good idea to soak them down ahead of time. I like to use an impact wrench to get them off. Sometimes you're going to have to use a breaker bar. I already got one nut off just to save some time. 17mm bolt. And there's the other 17mm nut. Just grab a breaker bar or lung bar, and on the lower control arm there's a bunch of holes. Get that in there, pry down, and that'll help separate the whole axle from the housing and the hub. Don't be afraid to manhandle it. Get this out of your way. You want to take your axle, get it up over everything in there, the sway bar. Now here's where the trick comes in. A lot of books and forums say to use a pry bar to get underneath there and catch the ears of the axle to pull away from the transmission. I like to use these whale jaw vice grips. I'll show you everything that I'm doing once I get out from underneath there. So I do is I take these whale jaw pliers, lock it around the ears. You might have to do a little finagling to get them in there. Best thing is get them in nice and deep. Once you get in there, you can start hammering. Release that. Now, this is that snap ring I was telling you about. That's the thing you have to overcome to get it out of the differential of the transmission. Here, see, this is a little bit older model. The newer models have little ears. Same groove, but they have little ears. This one just has a groove. I was catching the wheel jaw right there. And they're hitting it with the hammer this way to try and give even pressure to slide that out of there. There's nothing actually wrong with this drive axle, so I'm just going to reinstall this one. Clean up that seal. Fish everything through. Alright, so once we get this set back in here, you'll feel the splines catch and start to lock in, and then you put your vice grips back around the same collars that you were using to get them off. And I found the easiest way to do this is to come up through here, just grab any old piece of metal or anything long and sneak this in here and catch onto the vice grips. Then you just start banging away. Sometimes you have to rotate the whole assembly. You can also rotate it from the other wheel if you want, because everything's connected. That looks good. Now at this point, you pull your whole hub assembly out. And sneak your drive axle back through here. Have to rotate just a little bit. There we go. Throw on your hub nut again. Okay. Once that's on there, you're going to need your pry bar. Pry down that lower control arm again. Get those studs lined up. And at that point, you're going to tighten up all the lower ball joint nuts and bolt. After you get that all tightened up, you're going to come back, reinstall your tie rod end, castle nut. I find it easiest just to impact it on there with the 17 millimeters. All these I impact them on, and I give them a final crank with the breaker bar, just make sure they're good. Once we get that set, we're going to come back to the inside. I can't show you this because it's buried in there. But on the back side of the transmission, there's a 17 millimeter fill nut. Open that up, drop some tubing down, and that's where you fill up your differential if you lost any differential fluid. Throw the cap nut over there, then reinstall a new cotter pin.